Everybody having a good time tonight?
Enjoying yourself so far?
Alright. It's now time for the induction of America's Best Colton Quest. Accepting the award on his behalf will be his father, my friend, and our CEO, Mr. Chris Scarborough.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd also like to introduce the two gentlemen that will be here to induct Colton Quest into the RightCoastPro Hall of Fame. Please welcome the two most legendary names in the history of wrestling in Delaware. Mr. Mike Womer, also known as the Cheetah Master, and Mr. Kettner.
Remember the last time that you and I stood in the ring together? 22 years ago, Jim. 22 years ago. Do you remember where we were?
Right here.
Yes, I do. And we're still coming out to your music. It's an honor to be back in the ring with you again. Good evening, everyone. I'm extremely honored to be part of this Hall of Fame ceremony tonight as we pay tribute to my friend, Anthony Scarborough, better known to the wrestling community as America's Best Colton Quest. It's a pleasure to be part of this large gathering consisting of Anthony's great family and friends, the tremendous wrestling fans, and the owner's hard-working staff and talented roster of RCP Wrestling. Tonight's show and tributes are made extra special by the ringside appearances of some of Delaware's greatest wrestling legends, like the newest Hall of Fame member, Shawn Moore, The Chick Magnets, Ryan Rush, Sebastian Knight, Jim Dixon, J.R. Lyra, Nick Solo, Joey Silver, Freak Nasty, Pedro Doro, Sean Bennett, Chris Steeler, King Mega, Prince Nana, JJ the Crew Guy, and RCP's First Lady and Den Mother, Lisa Johnston. And Delaware's greatest wrestling legend of all, the Cheetah Master. This group of individuals have all earned the title of legendary based off of their abilities, great performances, and the memories they have left us all with. But their greatest attribute has been their ability to connect with people. That being said, and after meeting with these legends this afternoon, they all agree that another name should be added to their list, and that's Delaware's newest wrestling legend, America's Best, Colton Quest. Colton has earned this title of legendary because of his great wrestling performances, his ability to connect with people in and out of the ring, and all the great memories he left us with that are indelibly etched in our hearts and minds forever. I first met Anthony in 2003 when he was about 6 or 7 years old. His father, Chris, was taking part in a wrestling show and was injured at the hands of Prince Nana and King Mega. Anthony was so upset and burst into tears, and they had to bring him backstage to make sure that his dad was okay. That was 16 years ago. Fast forward to 7 years later, I was in a sporting goods store when a young teenager approached me and introduced himself. It was Anthony. The pudgy little kid I remembered had grown up so much I hardly recognized him. 2 sentences into our conversation, he was so very proud to tell me that he was training to be a pro wrestler at RCP Wrestling. I asked him which wrestlers he liked while he was growing up. He said Shawn Michaels, Randy Savage, Chris Jericho. But his favorite wrestler of all time that he idolized as a kid and wanted to emulate was the Cheetah Master. He wanted to fly through the air off the top turnbuckle, the way that he watched Cheetah do for so many years. And he wanted to connect with people the way Cheetah did. We stood there in the sporting goods store for over an hour talking about wrestling, and before leaving he asked if I would come watch him train or if I could be there for his first match. I promised I would, but I told him, make sure you save me a seat. I went to the very next practice, and there was Anthony, perched on the top turnbuckle, practicing the famous Cheetah Splash. He tried it over and over and over again until he got it right. But that was Anthony. He would not give up until he got things right. He was very committed to what he was doing. I asked if there was anything I could help him with, and he was having difficulty with in the ring. He said, I'm having trouble with my punching. He said, I won't get punching right. He then asked me very passionately, Mr. Kettner, when do I learn how to throw a good punch? When do I learn how to take a good punch? When do I learn how to duck a good punch? I told him, when do you get married? After practice, he wanted to meet up and get something to eat, to talk more about his training, a new character, and the wrestling business. I told him, sure, if you get to the restaurant before me, save me a seat. Our meetings would go on for almost monthly for over 6 years. Sometimes we would sit and talk wrestling for 3 and 4 hours at a time. And once in a while, we would invite our buddies, the crazy kids, and the 3 and 4 hours would turn into 5 or 6 hours. What fun times we all had. In our meetings, I found out a lot about Anthony. He had a special place in his heart for his extended family members. He cherished the times he could be with his friends, his wrestling peers, the wrestling fans, and his biggest wrestling fan ever, his great-granddad, Jim. But his greatest love was for his mom, dad, sisters, and brothers. Anthony had a lot of great qualities. He was mature, ambitious, sincere, responsible, sophisticated, considerate, confident, modest, eloquent, energetic, thoughtful, respectful, sociable, assertive, attentive, pleasant, gentle, courteous, trustworthy, cheerful, easygoing, well-behaved, calm, and always positive. He connected with everyone, and he could convey all those thoughts and emotions in one spectacular way. That was through his famous, bright Anthony Scarborough smile. He brightened my life by accepting me into a circle of friends, something I will cherish forever. His is an inspirational story of triumph, as Anthony dared to dream, believe, and achieve. He became a pro wrestler, developed a character, had fantastic matches, and was growing as a performer with every show. And to be a wrestler, Anthony defeated one of his biggest opponents ever, diabetes. In the last year of his life, his smile dimmed just a little. We all became just a little worried. But we were to find out later that Anthony was locked in a battle that every young male adult goes through. He wanted to be recognized and accepted as a man. He grappled with his last opponent and faced all the challenges of becoming a man with style, grace, and dignity. Those of us close to Anthony, we knew he had won his final match after all. However, I don't think he had a chance to fully realize his final victory, for he was taken from this earth way too soon. So, as I pay tribute to my final tribute to my friend, I look upward, and I see Anthony in heaven, wearing that bright, infectious smile once again. There he stands on the highest and grandest turnbuckle of all. I look up and I see the pro wrestler, Colton Quest. I see Colton Quest, the Hall of Famer. I see Colton Quest, the wrestling legend. I see Colton Quest, the champion. But most of all, when I look up, I see Anthony Scarborough, the man. Anthony, I love you. I miss you. I'll see you again soon. And don't forget, buddy, save me a seat. Thank you, everyone. Everyone. And now let's take a look at America's best, Colton Quest.
Standing in the rain with his head hung low, couldn't get a ticket, it was a sold-out show. Heard the roar of the crowd, he could picture the scene, put his ear to the wall, then like a distant scream
my life, I've been put down because of diabetes, but I've never let that or anything else stop me from what I love to do. And tonight, I don't plan on changing that statement. Tonight, I'm going to go into that ring and prove to everyone in this locker room and every one of those fans out there that I have what it takes.
And for the record, he did that dive better than I did. Before I get into his presentation, it's going to be tough. I need to love you too, brother. I need to talk to the Starbirds. For the right things to say to you guys for weeks, like we all have. And there isn't a right thing. Other than, I love you guys. and I'm not alone. We love you guys a bunch, man. So, I don't know what, a few weeks ago, I made a comment, and it may have been to you. I don't even remember where I met your husband or when and how. I don't. I've seen, like, I've known you forever. And I have no idea, it's been a long time. And you and I would have ridiculous conversations, and we would just banter back and forth. And before long, your little boy was with those bantering sessions. And not only did I not know when you and I met, but I didn't realize how closely Anthony paid attention to what we did. The gloves, the dive, the flying and the flipping around. I didn't connect the dots. I had no idea the influence. I wish I had, but I didn't know until after the ceremony. And to say that I'm honored to stand in front of your family today, words can't describe. So when Anthony became, I guess, 14 years old, he had a goal to be a pro wrestler. And quite frankly, if I'd have known it, I probably would have put my arms around him and told him it was a bad idea. But he wouldn't have listened. I wouldn't stand a chance. And he set a goal. He had a goal of being a professional wrestler. So before I get into his career and some of the circumstances surrounding it, let me make 2 quick points, and I'm going to be quick. Most people, when they set a goal, they think they set a goal. They don't really set a goal. Most of the time, it's just some whimsical thought. You know what? I think I'm going to run a marathon. I think I might lose 20 pounds. I think I may go back to college and get my degree. But that wasn't it. See, most people, when they experience their first challenge, they'll quit. Their first time it's inconvenient, they'll quit. The first time it becomes painful, or when they're uncomfortable, they'll quit. They'll walk away. And then they'll make excuses as to why they couldn't do it. The people in charge didn't like them. They weren't given an opportunity. It wasn't their fault. That wasn't Anthony. The second point I want to make is being a professional wrestler isn't a normal job. It couldn't be any farther from normal. You don't get a certification and go to a wrestling job and become a wrestler. That's not how it happens. You need to learn the craft. And that unto itself is a remarkably challenging thing to do. These gentlemen here are sick athletes. Yeah, really good. They deserve it. You can't imagine the wind, the balance, the fortitude you need to do what these gentlemen do. You can't. And these are men. When Anthony had the goal of being a pro wrestler, he was 14 years old. And let me give you a little dirty truth about pro wrestling. In today's time, we think we know a lot, and you do. But what you may not appreciate is when you walk into a locker room, there's a couple guys who are on top for the man. But when a new guy walks into a locker room, all eyes are on him because that new guy becomes a threat. These are men who are beating the living you-know-what out of each other, and now all of a sudden they're looking at this young buck coming into their locker room going, I don't think you're going to take my spot there, kiddo. And Anthony wanted to do this when he was 14 years old. So most people don't stick with the goals. And a pro wrestling goal is a scary business. It is what it is. So that being said, Anthony wants to be a pro wrestler. He shows up in the back of JJ's yard at 14 years old and does 4 billion squats, 17,000 burpees, hurdles, puts the ring together, takes it apart, does all this. And he can't legally get in the ring for 4 years. Didn't slow him down a bit. Didn't make him question it because he knew what he wanted to be. He wanted to be a pro wrestler. So he worked, and he worked, and he worked for the most improbable goal out there, but he didn't stop. So now he's 2 years into this journey, and something, quite frankly, tragic happens. Something is terribly wrong with Anthony. A lot of times people have a cold and they think that's terribly wrong. God forbid you have the flu, that's a tragedy. Anthony was taken to the doctors and then immediately rushed to the hospital. Anthony was diagnosed with diabetes. He wasn't diagnosed with elevated sugar or erratic sugar, nothing that a pill could fix or a diet. He had diabetes that will remain with him for the rest of his life. The book is over, the goal is done, the dream of pro wrestling can be put aside. What an easy opportunity for him to walk away and blame it on something out of his control. He didn't. Didn't slow down a lick. He had 2 more years to wait to get into the ring. He's got to manage his organs so he can live and didn't slow him down. He continued his workouts with JJ as a 16-year-old with diabetes. And he's got to face these guys. And he becomes 17. He keeps pushing. Finally, his 18th birthday arrives, and he gets his chance. So we've all had our first match, and we all know it wasn't the best. We've all know. And most of the folks who have that match don't ever do it again. Because your first match is going to be the first of the card. Chances are you won't be asked back. He was asked back, and he kept coming back. And he got better, and he got better. And lo and behold, he wasn't the first match anymore. He started to move up. And think about it. He's 18, he's 19 years old right now in a man's business. He's a threat to the guy on top, and he kept going. He wasn't at the bottom of the card, now he's working his way up. And lo and behold, somewhere it slowed down, and it all made sense to Anthony. That's when Colton Quest was born. Because instead of the crowd terrifying him, he led them through a dance that ended in cheers. Instead of these guys intimidating the hell out of him, he joined them in creating something magic. But he wasn't done. See, Anthony wanted to be a pro wrestler. And if you're a pro wrestler, what you aspire to be is the best. And the only way you can be the best is to be the heavyweight champion. So he continued. Now all of a sudden he's in the main events. And he's pushing, but that's not enough. He continues to work. And he won't allow diabetes or life's challenges to get in the way. And lo and behold, December 2018, he was given opportunity in this ring to wrestle for the heavyweight championship. So do me a favor, clap loud, because I'm about to tell you he won the heavyweight championship in December 2018. I love you, but I gotta tell you, December 2018, that little boy's dream was fulfilled when he not only became a pro wrestler, but he stood on top, and his father presented him with the belt, hugged him, whispered in his ear how proud he was, and told him he loved him. And then he let Colton go, because that's what he did, and he entertained the crowd. before I wrap this up, I want the fans to know that Colton's quest every day since he was 14 years old, not just when he's wrestling, but his off days, was to provide you with the greatest sports entertainment he could provide. He very much appreciated your cheers, your support, your kindness. So going home tonight, understand how much that meant to that young man. Well, if you're going to do it, brother. Let's go. So it is my honor above, I can't even describe to you what an honor it is, to the entire Scarborough family, to the wrestlers of RightCoastPro, to the greatest fans in the world, to formally bring up JJ and Lisa and the Scarborough family for the formal induction into the RightCoastPro Hall of Fame. Please give it up.
First of all, I know that before I even begin to speak on this microphone, that my son is looking down saying, "Dad, please don't get on the mic." Son, I promise this is for you, buddy. You know what? I wasn't planning on getting on the mic. I love getting in front of you fine folks. And what I want to hit home here is a couple things. Number one, you don't realize what this life entails until you experience it. At a young age, at a middle age, at an older age, I don't care what place in life you're at, you need to learn to pursue your passion. Because when you pursue your passion, what happens is it takes something inside of you and it makes it much better for everybody else around you. Because when you do something that you like to do, which is pursuing your passion, it makes you happy. And when you're happy, you know what you do? You put a smile on your face. I appreciate the comment that Jim Kettner made about Anthony always having that bright smile on his face. Because when you put a smile on your face, you know what that does for everybody else? And Anthony would love to hear this. It reciprocates and it puts one on everybody else's face at the same time. This world is real. We go through trials and tribulations. And you have to have a support system. That support system means everything. The last month and a half have been the hardest 4 to 6 weeks for my family. We've been through a lot of tragedy. We really have. But I'm not here to talk about that because Colton Quest, Anthony Scarborough wouldn't want me to talk about that. But what he would want me to talk about is the support system that he had and that we have. And if you look around this ring right here, every single 4 to 6 weeks that we step foot back here for you guys and gals, these folks around the ring aren't just wrestlers. They aren't just professional athletes. They're a brotherhood and a sisterhood. They're a family. But it gets better. It does get better. Because not only are they a family, but you're part of our family. You're the part of the family that makes us a family, that allows us to come together and do this every time we step foot in this ring. And my son, at the age of 14, had a dream. As Mr. Womer said, he had a goal. And he didn't just have a goal. He went from point A to point B, and he achieved that goal. And at the age of 16, he had to overcome a hurdle, but he didn't let it stop him. He didn't want it to stop. He wanted to keep pushing toward the finish line. That being said, he kept on keeping on. And when he turned 18 years old, he had the opportunity to step foot in this ring. He stepped foot in the ring, and he loved, he had a passion for what he did. He pursued that. Fast forward 5 years, as Mr. Mike Womer said, in December of 2018, he had the opportunity to wrestle for the RCP Heavyweight Championship. And not only did he have the opportunity, he seized that opportunity. And he seized that opportunity by winning the RightCoastPro Heavyweight Championship. And at that point in my son's life, I firmly believe that he reached the pinnacle of pursuing his passion. Because the Heavyweight Championship, as Mike said, is the pinnacle of professional wrestling. And when he reached that pinnacle, and he held that belt, and when I was able to announce his name, that was the last time that I got to embrace my son in this world. I embraced him, and I told him that I loved him, and I told him I was proud of him, and I told him to go show the fans what you worked so hard for. My point, and what Colton would want you to know, is please, and I'm not asking, I'm begging you, respect each other, trust each other, care for each other, support each other. This is the wrestling realm right here, but this is also life. We need each other. And you couldn't get through the things of this world, this tough thing that we call life, without having a support system. So make sure that you turn to the one beside you, and you hug those loved ones, and you tell them, hey, I'm here for you. I don't care if it's your child, I don't care if it's your spouse, I don't care if it's your next door neighbor. You never know when someone's going to need something. How I would like to close. I would like to thank each and every one of you here for being, and I'm speaking for my family here. My wife Amy, my daughter Alana, my daughter Alexia, my son Aiden, my son Anderson. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being our support system. This isn't easy, and without you, we couldn't get through this. Thank you.
Wow, quite a memorable night. So if you please remain in the ring. We do have a couple more matters to present. One is the answer that everyone is reluctant to ask. What do we do about the RightCoastPro Heavyweight Championship? The answer, we go forward. I sat down with Chris, the father. I sat down with Chris, the CEO of our company. And I asked him, what do you want to do personally? What should we do from a business standpoint? And of course, what would Anthony want us to do. The result of that meeting, we pick ourselves up, we go forward. We go forward on a quest to find the best, a quest for the gold. July 13th is our big Festivus event right here at the Boys Club. And what better night to kick off what will become and evolve into an annual benefit event to support one of the many local charities that Colton Quest was involved with. A Quest for the Gold will be a one-night tournament, 8 competitors, 3 rounds. The competitor who can win and complete the quest of winning in 3 rounds will be the new RightCoastPro champion. To help commemorate this occasion, I thought it only appropriate that we recognize those that have reached the pinnacle in RightCoastPro and prove themselves to be the best. Ladies and gentlemen, the RightCoastPro Heavyweight Champions. Chris, you know I believe, as well as Mike, a man's word is his bond. We should always strive to do the right thing. And words, if they're not backed by actions, are meaningless. Colton's Quest name is on this belt. We have broadcast to the world that Colton Quest will forever be a champion. His name will never come off of this belt. At Quest for the Gold, we will be crowning a new RightCoastPro champion. But it will not be for this championship. This is Colton Quest championship belt. And it belongs with his father his mother, his brothers, and his sisters, and his grandfather. From my family to yours, please, please, I insist, take ownership of Colton's championship.
All right, second time, round two. Sorry, son. We gotta put a little laughter. Sorry. Look, it would hurt me tonight before I went to sleep. Not even tomorrow morning when I woke up. If I didn't acknowledge Lisa and JJ Johnston. Because I'm a big believer that every leader should be a motivational GPS. You know where you want to go, but somebody needs to allow you the opportunity to get to that place and also to lead you to that place. And without that man right there, and without that young lady right there, Colton Quest would have never been Colton Quest, and he would have never had the opportunity. So from my family, to all of you, to all of the fine athletes around the ring, Lisa, JJ, everyone here, thank you very much for the opportunity of Colton Quest.
Round of applause for this.
like to watch us wrestle. He sure as hell needs to hear you tonight. I'm going to do it one more time. Are you ready? Y'all ain't ready. Are you ready?